Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. I'm your host as always, Duncan Alney, where we speak to leading entrepreneurs and CEOs of mission-driven food and beverage brands. This episode is brought to you by Firebelly, which I co-founded. At Firebelly, we make brands more likable and profitable through social media marketing. That's all we do. It's 100% social media marketing. We were voted one of the top 10 social media agencies in the world by Clutch. Firebelly has helped clients like Netflix, Qdoba, Fiji Water, and many others transform their social media marketing strategies. If you want to make your brand more likable and profitable, let's talk. Go to firebellymarketing.com. So today I'm especially excited because our guest has great objectives. Not only does he want to make the world healthier in an authentic way, but he's invented a product that allows you to manage how you absorb alcohol. So let me introduce Dr. Fisher. Welcome, Dr. Joseph Fisher. He's the inventor of the SOBAR and the founder of Zeno Functional Foods located in California. He was trained as a medical scientist, having received his BS and MS in chemistry from Stanford, and then his MD and Ph.D. from Stanford Medical School as part of the prestigious medical scientist training program. After doing a postdoctoral fellowship at the UCSF Hughes Medical Institute, he worked in the biopharmaceutical industry in research, business development, and strategic consulting for over 20 years. Now, in starting Zeno, he set his sights even higher on creating unique foods that can improve an individual's well-being and lifestyle. With SOBAR, which is what we're going to be talking about today, the first product to come out of this effort. And also, Dr. Fisher is a member of the Institute of Food Technologies. Dr. Fisher, please feel so welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Oh, it's great to be here, and thanks so much for having me.
Dr. Fisher, how did the idea for SOBAR come around? Like, what happened? Give us a story.
Okay, well, a little step back, I started this company after I retired from the pharmaceutical industry with the hope of doing things more along the lines of preventive medicine. Drug development was great. I enjoyed it. I love working with the people and the technology, but in reality, there's so much disease and health problems that are all preventable. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if there's a way to head some of this off at the start? And I initially wanted to see if I could create foods that could help with some big health problems like diabetes, obesity, and heart disease. And as I was working on these projects, a funny thing happened. I went to a wedding on an empty stomach, which is pretty typical. I started drinking, and chatting with other guests, and I got a little too intoxicated. Basically, I drank too much on the empty stomach, didn't eat enough food, and didn't feel, the way I really hoped to feel at that event. So that got me thinking a lot about food and alcohol. And anyone that drinks knows that food is really important at regulating how alcohol is absorbed. It goes into your system much faster on an empty stomach than it does after you've eaten some food. And I wonder, are there any foods that are designed for this that work better than others? And I looked at all the medical research I could find, published research, and there was virtually no information. I couldn't believe it. There's, 2.5 billion people drink. It's the world's largest, most widely used drug. And everyone knows that food's important, but the only thing that people know is that eating food helps. And if you eat a lot of food, it'll work better than a little food. But there was nothing that proved that one food was better than another, or exactly when you had to eat the food or how much food you had to eat to get what kind of effect. So I thought, well, this is an area of research that I could get into. It's pretty easy to test. That's for sure. All you need is a good breathalyzer and scientific background and mind to do some controlled experiments. So after reading the scientific literature on how I could come up with a product that potentially could work, I developed a bunch of prototypes and started testing them really on myself at first under controlled conditions. Then, other people that I could get to volunteer. And then when I thought I had something that looked promising, I, did a full clinical trial with an outside group and tested it by a third party and really see if this really worked and how well it worked compared to typical things that other people might eat when they're drinking.
Well, I can tell you that has never happened to me.
I don't believe you at all.
Yes, I can't tell you how many times it has happened to me and to most of us, right? Where you go somewhere and the food's delayed, and the next thing you know, you had 2 martinis or whatever your drink is, and you were flying, and now you got to still operate. And I mean, I can remember doing it in back in the day in meetings, and you had a drink because I got nervous, and next thing you know, I got to talk to some executives about something, and I've had 3 drinks, yeah. But I think one of the things that has struck me that is very different about your approach, and I love this, is that you're not interested in products that fit a marketing niche. You're interested in products that can genuinely make people's lives better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's really, if you think about product development in the food industry and the drug industry too, it's can be driven by an unmet need that the product can fulfill, or it can be driven more from a marketing standpoint. It's like, what kind of marketing angle do you want to spin a product and develop it around that? So, for example, some of the allergy drugs were developed with the main goal of creating something that doesn't make you drowsy. So they design that into the whole product development. They design the trials in such a way that people are given a dose that they didn't get drowsy. So they could essentially make a marketing claim at the end of the day, an anti-allergy drug that doesn't make you drowsy. And the same thing happens with food. I mean, people are going with trends or looking, well, keto's popular, or, animal proteins are less popular, or, whatever the angle is, you can design a food around what you see as that marketing angle. And I'm not really interested in doing that. I think there's more than enough foods out there, more than enough developers to pursue those kind of things. I'm starting on more of the medical side. The health side is, what's the unmet medical need? Start with this thing where, a special food that could help you allow to have a better drinking experience. And then working back on the biology and seeing, are there mechanisms that you can take advantage of to accomplish that with a food? What would the food have to look like? And develop it from that standpoint. And then, if you have something that works, I'm optimistically thinking that the marketing will be more aligned with what the food is actually doing, rather than some kind of general trend in the industry.
I love it. And so let's talk about the product itself. How does the product work? And also importantly, what are the flavors?
Yeah. So to understand how it works, you have to understand how alcohol is absorbed to begin with. And surprisingly, most drinkers don't know. They just drink and it gets absorbed, and sort of that's that. But if you know the steps and how it is absorbed and processed, you can learn an awful lot about how to better control it. So let's say I drink some alcohol. It first goes into my mouth, and alcohol just flows passively across membranes. So there's no energy involved. And a little bit actually just gets absorbed right in the lining of your mouth, but not much because it's not in there very long. And then it goes down your esophagus into your stomach, and that's where the first place where the alcohol sort of sits. So in the stomach, alcohol is absorbed pretty slowly through the wall of the stomach, but it's also broken down by enzymes that line the stomach, an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase. So in the stomach, not too much is, it's going in slow, and some of it's getting broken down. Now, the alcohol that doesn't get absorbed or broken down in the stomach goes to your small intestine. And in the small intestine, you can view that as like a big sponge. I mean, it's got a huge surface area, and it just soaks up the alcohol really quickly. And that's where it just flows into your through your liver and into your bloodstream very quickly. So the idea is that if you can keep the alcohol in the stomach longer, it would benefit you because you'd have more control over how it's absorbed. And when you eat food, that's what's happening. Food slows your stomach from emptying. That's what food does. So if you have food in your stomach while you're drinking or before you're drinking, the alcohol stays there a lot longer. It goes in slower, and some of it gets broken down and doesn't get in it at all. So the idea behind the SOBAR then is, how can you make a small snack as efficient as possible at slowing down your stomach and keeping the alcohol in there longer? And that's what it was designed to do. So I looked at ingredients that could help slow the stomach down, and combine different types of ingredients that work independently to do that. And it ends up working quite well. That in the clinical trial, it worked about twice as well per calorie compared to the other foods we tested, which was a snack mix, Chex Mix, or a whole big meal that we gave people about 800 calories. So that's how it works. It actually doesn't work any differently the way other foods work. It just works more efficiently. So you don't have to eat as much. So that appeals to people that, they don't want to eat too much. And like me, I gain weight easily when I drink. So it's sort of nice that I don't have to eat a lot, but I can moderate the alcohol a little bit more than if I had an empty stomach.
That's wonderful. And what are the flavors? Tell us about the flavors.
Yes, they started out with 3 flavors. One is a white chocolate almond flavor, which is really good. It tastes almost like a vanilla wafer. That sort of clean vanilla taste. It's made with Italian white chocolate, and it's really quite good. Another one is a honey peanut flavor, relatively straightforward, but it's a really good quality peanut. The peanut butter really shines. And that flavor just won a Sophie Award, a gold Sophie Award at the Specialty Food Association last week. They do blind tasting. So I sent in the bar. They just have a whole panel of judges, and they picked that as the top pick. So they really liked it. That's my favorite afternoon bar. And then we have a caramel macchiato bar that's sort of a coffee bar that's sweetened with caramel syrup, real caramel syrup. And that also is quite tasty. It's made with real spray dried Colombian coffee. So it's not some, flavorings. I try to avoid flavorings. I generally try to make the bar with the actual stuff that it's supposed to taste like. And that, and if you're successful, it really comes through as to what it is.
Well, congratulations on the award. And those flavors sound delicious. And I can't wait to get my order in on Amazon, which is where people can find it, right? On Amazon.
Yeah. So we just launched this new version of the bar, and it's on Amazon right now, and hoping to get it into stores later this year.
That's wonderful. And let me ask you this: the pandemic, right? So the pandemic's affected us all differently. How did the pandemic affect the rollout of the bars for you?
Well, we started selling them in early 2000, before the pandemic hit. And, basically it was more of I would say a test launch in a certain respect. It was on Amazon and our website only, not really focusing on retail and store channels at all. It started out pretty well. Things were picking up. It's getting some really interesting press, good press. A lot of articles were written about it because it's such a novel idea. And then the pandemic hit, and the pandemic is really bad for this kind of product. This is a product that really benefits from socializing, from going to parties, going to bars, going to events. So all that was shut down. The other alternate trend that was going on was that people were stuck at home and they were just drinking a lot, and they enjoyed doing that. Alcohol sales were up significantly during the pandemic. So the appeal of a SOBAR at that point was, not it's not the product on everyone's favorite list, but that was really useful though to just get people trying it, get feedback, and it really helped in coming up with the bar that we have today, which has been reformulated somewhat. It's significantly smaller than the first bar, which many users thought was too large to consume or too filling. So now it's a really good size, and we're really hopeful that it's a much better time to launch the product.
That's amazing. And tell us about the Food Innovation Award.
Yeah, so even during the pandemic, there was an annual award by Food Bev Media. It's in the UK. They have it in London, and they look at food in various different categories, and really are trying to award foods based on their innovative approach. And SOBAR won in the best health or wellness food category as best health or wellness food. That wasn't a tasting event, so they didn't know how the bars tasted. It was more on the concept and clinical results or how well it worked and things like that. but that's a real honor. There's some really big hitters in that competition, big food companies that I beat out. So that's I didn't really expect that, but I'm really pleased with it.
And Dr. Joseph, what role do you think social media plays in all of this? Is it the ability to generate word of mouth? Is it the ability to show social proof? All of the above?
Yeah, I think it's all the above. And with food, I have to understand unless you eat it yourself, you're relying on someone else's opinion. So, ideally, I can get the bars in front of people somehow, either through sampling or, you know, or otherwise. But if you can't do that, the next best thing is having someone they trust who has tried the food. So that could be an influencer. That's another strategy where social can help. You give it out to people and they spread the word, or just consumers that buy it on Amazon or some other way spread the word through social. But with food, it's a personal preference. Some people may love something and other people's may not. So it's really just important to give them more confidence in the product before they buy it, especially when it's online only in the beginning, because you typically have to buy a box of something rather than an individual bar to try it out. So social media, I think, is really important, especially when a product is young and there's not as much social proof out there about it.
Got it. And also the revenue generation capabilities. That's really great. Well, I think that I was talking to Rusty Jones, who's one of the founders of Hello Water, and I loved what he said. And he talked about cleaning up the grocery aisle. Literally millions of calories of sugar that are not reaching people now because of these healthy products. And that's something amazing that you're doing, is you're not only meeting the need where you can avoid being drunk too quickly, but you're also doing it in such a healthy way. I just really applaud you and think you're doing something so wonderful. Has it been difficult for you entering the food space and with these products?
It's been so far not difficult to enter. It might be difficult to succeed. So that's something to be seen. It's I went in as a real newbie. I knew nothing about the food industry other than going to the supermarket and buying food. So it really took some time to educate myself, to figure out how it all worked, how stores get the food that they're selling, and the whole idea of distributors and retailers and food brokers and all these different pieces of it and how it works together. And that's something I didn't do enough of when I first started. And during the pandemic, I joined the Specialty Food Organization Association, and they have some really great resources for small companies like me. They had a boot camp, which was like a multi-day course where experts come in and they tell you about how does it work with food brokers and how does it work with distributors and what does the pricing structure have to look like for everyone to sort of be viable. And that was really helpful, because until I did that, I didn't realize that the first product I came out with was too large. People didn't want to eat it, but it was actually too expensive to make, and it never would have been really a viable product in the market. Or it would be a challenge, because small makers like myself have a small scale. So your manufacturing costs are always much higher than the large manufacturers. So you're going to have to be forced to make certain compromises in the way your product looks like, just to make sure that you can even manufacture it and sell it at all. So it's an ongoing experience. I'm learning all the time. And the key, I think, is talking to people in the industry, getting their feedback, and they make connections for you. You make connections through just meeting people and working with other people. And it's just an awesome thing. The other day, I'm talking with a food broker, and, I wanted some references from them, and they gave me a reference, and I talked to that reference. And this reference was just an amazing person who just had tremendous experience in the wine and spirits industry, and in getting into stores. And I just learned so much. And he had a lot of really useful feedback about, how do I tell the brand story, and how to position the product and potential roadblocks down the road. So thing is, just networking, and it's a pretty small knit community, really, and just take advantage of that.
Well, this has been so amazing. Anything that you have coming up that you want people to know about? And most importantly, before you even answer that, how can people tell us again how people can find the product and order the product?
Well, for right now, the easiest way is to go to Amazon.com, just search SOBAR, and it'll pop up. There's 4 SKUs that you can order on Amazon now. The 3 flavors that come in 9-pack boxes, or you can get a 3 by 3 9-pack, which is all 3 flavors in a variety pack. So that's a great way to start it.
Like that.
Start the product. There's actually these promotional coasters in many of the boxes. It's a bit of a surprise whether you get one and what it is. There's a few different designs, so that's a fun aspect of the product. It also helps you remind you to eat something before you drink. And we're hoping to get it out into stores, throughout the year. But it's a process. It takes time. There's tremendous competition in the bar space, so it's gonna be a challenge to do that. But certainly hoping to get it out there as soon as possible, so you don't have to necessarily go to Amazon to get them.
Awesome. So before we ask the last question, I want to thank you for being on here. And at Firebelly, we make brands more likable and profitable through social media marketing. Firebelly's helped clients like Netflix, Qdoba, Fiji Water, and many others transform their social media marketing strategies. If you want to establish your brand, expand your reach, and get ROI, let's talk. So back to our last question, and I don't know, this was on my mind. It's like, okay, the name of the product is SOBAR, and the website says Get SOBAR. What's the story behind the name?
Yeah, the name, it's a good question. Well, it's a bar, and it's a play on the word sober.
Yeah.
And so there's an association with alcohol drink. I mean, the idea is that it would help keep you sober. Any food would help keep you sober, but this is designed to help keep you sober. But I should caution people, it won't prevent you from getting drunk. You can definitely overdrink, whether you eat 1 or more of these bars. There's nothing that can prevent that, really, in the known universe. And you can also, if you're intoxicated, you're not going to get sobered up by eating the bar or any other food, actually. Once the alcohol is in your bloodstream, food has very little effect, generally speaking. So those are the caveats. My daughter, actually, who's a marketing major at Indiana University, came up with the name. And for better or worse, that's a good name. But it's too catchy to not use at this point.
It is. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Dr. Joseph. I really thank you for joining the Firebelly Social Show today. And everyone, check it out. Go to Amazon and order your variety pack today. The name of the bar, again, is SOBAR. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.